Today I'm going to share with you how to prepare butternut squash, acorn squash, spaghetti squash and delicata squash. I'll also talk about ways we can cook these in the kitchen. Take a damp towel, place it down. Now place the board on top. This will stop your board moving. Remember, winter squashes, they're going to take quite a little bit of work and we don't want the board sliding around the countertop. When it comes to cutting squash, you have many knives in your kitchen. The one what I always choose is the chef's knife. Mine's an 8-inch chef's knife, and I think this works really well against a sturdy butternut squash, and the motion we want to come from the top down. This sounds very basic, but it's important. Always wash your squashes or your vegetables before you start chopping. Butternut squash, when we look at a butternut squash, it has sort of a bulb shape. That bulb is going to roll around on the board, so we want to cut a slice off. By cutting a slice, it's not going to roll around the board. I always use a vegetable peeler to cut through the waxy skin. It really makes this so fast and effortless. Now we're going to top and tail the butternut squash using the knife. Now you see how we cut it. We go from the top of the knife to the bottom, top to the bottom when we cut squash. As we look at this, you can see it's got a bulb. Cut it just at the top of the bulb. That's where all the seeds are. Now lay it down on the flat surface, cut down, and as I open this up, you'll see all the seeds. Now when it comes to removing the seeds, use an ice cream scoop or a melon baller or a dessert spoon, but always have a bowl. You always want to scrape those seeds into a bowl. Keep your countertop nice and clean. I want to show you a few different cuts with butternut squash, just to get your creativity going. We've got these home fries now. They would be perfect for roasting or deep frying. Maybe cut them into triangles. Triangles would be good to be roasted and topped like a bruschetta. Make an appetizer with it. The bulb section we're going to cut into slices. We can roast these, serve it with a vinaigrette, maybe some goat cheese. One of the most common cuts I do is a diced, about 1/2 inch dice, and I roast these. These work well in salads, on top of flatbreads, pizzas. You know, if you look here, we've got some Middle Eastern spiced flatbread, some feta cheese, some roasted peppers, caramelized onions. For spaghetti squash, the same as any squash, we want to slice a piece off. Just hold it firmly and come straight the way down. Make sure that knife's nice and sharp. Now we've got a flat surface, we can cut the top and the tail off the squash. Now, if it's a bit wobbly, use a towel to hold it in place. Just cutting the squash open, using the ice cream scoop or a melon baller or a dessert spoon, scraping the seeds. I'm gonna say it again, always into a bowl, keeping your area nice and clean. There are 2 ways to cook this squash. One is steaming. Take a fork, and then we're just going to use the prongs of the fork to make some holes. This will help with the steaming process. And then we want to cover this with some plastic wrap, and then we're going to microwave this for about 10 to 15 minutes until it's soft. Another way to cook it is to roast it in the oven. We've preheated the oven to 375 Fahrenheit. I'm going to brush it with some oil on both sides. This will help with the roasting process. And then I'm going to cook this for about 45 to 60 minutes. This really concentrates the flavor. That nice brownness really concentrates it. As I scrape it, just look. This could be used now with marinara sauce. This could be used with pesto. It could be used with bolognese sauce or even a pad thai. Acorn squash can be a rascal to peel because of its shape. So when I'm working with acorn squash, I always choose a paring knife. I find a small paring knife is the best way to peel acorn squash. But for this recipe, I'm leaving this skin on because when it roasts, it gets nice and crispy and you can eat it. I'm going to cut a piece off so we've got a flat surface, take the top off, take the tail off, turn it around on its flat surface, and then open it up. As always, I'm gonna use the ice cream scoop and we're gonna scoop out the seeds. Now I'm going to cut this into slices and we're going to roast these. We're going to roast them at 425 Fahrenheit for about 15 to 20 minutes, and they're great for salads or a little bit of a balsamic vinegar, olive oil, salt, pepper, maybe some goat's cheese. When it comes to delicata squash, you know what we're going to do. We're going to de-seed it. But this one, I'm actually going to stuff it. I'm going to stuff it with some marinara sauce, some mozzarella, and I'm going to top it with some pieces of bread and roast that off. No matter whether you choose butternut squash, acorn squash, spaghetti squash, or even delicata, have fun. That's what cooking's all about.